Hello everyone. Thank you very much everyone joining me and Tibetan Buddhist Society of Canberra and all your Dharma friends from all over the place. It's very lovely to have everyone's company to spend time listening to the deep wisdom of the perfection wisdom through the writings of great celebrated master Rongton Sheja Kunrig. First of all, we will take refuge and regenerate our motivation of altruism for the benefit of all sentient beings as we do these prayers. Screen share for those of you. Others, why we haven't given the
relevant prayers aren't in those books. The ones you know aren't in.
We don't have the prayers? Oh, we should have printed them. Anyway, so those of you who have the access to the prayer, otherwise we can just join the spirit. So when we do the refuge, think of the space in front of you, the holy presence of the omniscient Buddha with his infinite compassion and wisdom, touching and moving and shifting us, our life, towards the light, away from darkness. And we are acknowledging every step of the way when we sit and be present in the teachings, not only when we're doing the prayers, but also when you're listening, when you're rationalizing, when you're thinking, when you're believing, when you know how much truth the Dharma is. Each time you do think, listen and pay heed to, your mind is chipping away by the Buddha's blessings. You should feel the radiance of the wisdom, enjoying the sunlight warmth of the Dharma, and amazing radiance of compassion streaming through the living lineage of the Sangha that enlivens our life and its purpose by learning to drop selfishness. For one realizes it's the root of all miseries and all failings, and learning to adopt the altruism and cherishing others' well-being, service of others, as the only way to make our life and time meaningful. And so listening to the teaching is really listening to our heart to remember the above, and hence we shall stay always in refuge. And therefore make a commitment to practice loving kindness to all sentient beings, particularly difficult situations, and practice compassion when others are not in good space. They don't know what they're doing, let alone to you. So we have to have the karmic duty to practice compassion. Those who appears difficult, who appears very aggressive, or not in them good self, we have to be kind and compassion. That is true Dharma. And you wouldn't believe how many joys you will have when you're able to do that. You will have true joy then, because you didn't lose your temper, because you didn't react to them badly, you didn't say bad words. You saw the futility of doing that, and as a result of that, you control yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and most importantly, your behavior. And what better cause of joy than self-control? And those you can't deal with it, you have the ability to practice equanimity. Don't get too taking side towards near and dear, thinking you got to stand beside them no matter what. Even with them, you need to know how to keep a respectable distance. Of course, those people are very difficult. We have to give them another opportunity by not being too judgmental and reactive. Even with them, we can't be too angry and resentful, for it will only hurt us more than they try to do to you. See, this is the equanimity. So with this understanding, we'll do those prayers, everyone. Join your hands at the heart, feel the presence of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas witnessing your sincerity, and think all people for whose sake you are making this affirmation. Call refuge and bodhicitta. Oyenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Hajere Pyeche Lajame Bhavache Hajedala Hajare Buddha Vajubes and Abu Dhamma Sangha Hajere Pyeche Lajame Bhavache Hajedala Hajare Buddha Vajubes and Abu Dhamma Sangha Hajere Pyeche Lajame Bhavache Hajedala Hajare Buddha Vajubes Mehobis happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never bar from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from judgment and aversion to those near and far. May hobbies happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never bar from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from judgment and aversion to those near and far. May hobbies happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never bar from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from judgment and aversion to position of Dharma Agrelo and Gom So, thank you for your attention and particularly intention with which we can best make use of our time meaningfully. Listening to the Dharma is very, very meritorious, not because who is teaching it, because what is being taught. What is taught is none other than the very roaring of the lion's realization of the Buddha. It's Buddha's roar of lion teachings that are passed down through the unbroken warm breath of the lineage masters. Lineage masters or teachers are the conduit, but the living wire that comes through the conduit is the Buddha Dharma. So because we have not only good intention, but the subject and the source of the knowledge, which is valid realization of the Buddha, therefore you have every reason to be benefited more than any other undertakings, any other times you do that may look very productive. You might earn a couple of $100 an hour, but even then, the actual bountiful benefit from that is not as much as from listening to the Dharma. Even by hearing one verse of the Dharma that you truly take heed to and undertake and employ in your everyday life, that is far, more precious than any kind of the whole wealth that your whole life's hard work can earn you. So with this understanding, we need to understand the preciousness of Dharma, that it is precious not just because it is you could not even put a price to the value it has, because it is the medicine that prevents suffering, not only cures sufferings and their symptoms, that prevents from causing any sufferings. Should you have the acquisition, should you have the acquaintance with the Dharma, that you actually mindfully remember the teachings, what you heard, and then employ them in your everyday life's challenging situations. So we have the great benefit of resorting to the writings which are realization of the celebrated master Rongton Sheja Kunrig, who is one of the very sort of jewel in the crown of Tibetan scholarship in the 15th century. There wasn't anyone who hasn't been his student at the time, and there hasn't been any student who hasn't actually used his writings over the last, I would say, 600 years or so. So we have the benefit of looking not one of his special writings, which is his own kind of pith, kind of realizational teachings on the perfection of wisdom, about which he is known as the great commentator on the classical writings on the perfection of wisdom, and Mahayana Sutra Alankara, 8,000 verses, all the well-known perfection wisdom texts are the subject of his commentary. But this one is like a very special kind of epistle of his own. So we are going through this. Today is our fourth lesson we're going through. It is still going on the first part, which is the importance qualities that the candidate, us as a student who wanted to understand, practice the perfection wisdom, must have these kind of qualities and attributes. So last week we finished with a statement of afflictions are destructive. So now this evening we're going to start with the next section, which has a very short, very succinct slogans, which he says, "Zongzinggi Tang Tam," means the precipice of subject and object is narrow. This means the subject is our mind. Yeah, the object is the the phenomena to whatever our particular object to which our mind is interfacing through either of the five sense doors. Usually when we interface our subjective mind with the objective world, there are three things. First is called 통황문율. 통황문율 means directly witness perception. Directly witness perception is your sense faculties are now directly interfacing the objects, so to speak. So if you see a blue flower, that's a 통황문율, means directly witnessing the blue flower. With whoever you ask, everybody knows it's blue flower. So that's a direct perception that you yourself witness without anything hindering you. And then 중세 고gyur, meaning slightly hidden phenomena. Slightly hidden phenomena is not like being able to see a blue flower, like the existence of future lives and past lives. These are what we call slightly hidden from the ordinary rational mind. Then Shinto Goju means extremely hidden one, extremely hidden phenomena. So they are extremely hidden phenomena are only interfaceable and knowable by the enlightened mind. And the middle one, which is slightly hidden phenomena, are discernible by using our logic and faith and scripture authority and various other reasonings. So when it says the precipice of subject-object is very narrow, means most of the time narrow means this is very, very, very dangerous. You can fall very quickly through the precipice of where you see things, where you interpret things. It is our own misperception or imperception of the visual, auditory, or whatever sense object that actually makes us to slip down and fall into the abyss. So people say, I saw. People say, I heard. They are often misguided by their own desire or expectation, hatred, and they slip through the abyss of the narrow passage of subject-object. Because the mind itself, the subject itself, is very unconscious of itself, let alone it has ability to directly perceive what a thing is from its own side. We are often not seeing the object from what is itself from its own side. We are actually seeing the object as opinion of the subject. That's why it's so precipice, so narrow, so narrow. We fell through the slippery precipices of our unreliable subjective mind, which is often influenced by the defilements, karma, and afflictions. So if the precipice is not, if precipices are there but it's not narrow and we can negotiate very well, means we are very subjectively very conscious. We are not too opinionated about the object by our own misperceptions. So that's a very powerful saying that the precipice of subject and object is very narrow. So therefore, travel carefully. Travel carefully means don't believe everything what you see is what the thing is. It may be sort of marred by your own affairs of the day, or something just happened, or just isn't happening quite. And these things can color your mind. This can mar your perception, and or your judgment of someone or something. And then you keep seeing whatever he says, you never see them right. Whatever he says, it's never right because you have this prejudice, kind of disrespect or dislike of him. Whatever he says, he can never say something right. Whereas other people hear it completely different. Why? It's because the precipice is very, very narrow. Someone is like that. When those two people, they go again, they clash. But with others, it's quite different. The person is completely different. So polite, so willing, so... Why is it so treacherously dangerous with one object, which is not with other? It's not so much to the object. It's just the mind itself is very slippery. It's got a lot of prejudices and negativities. So it's more like a subject. Why it is so narrow and perilous. Dangerous, because in the previous sentence he says that afflictions are very destructive. Yeah, when afflictions are very destructive, so destructive that the passage becomes very narrow and you might fall down. So that first previous sentence and these are connected. Shemban dalka means parting from one's attachment is very difficult. Yeah. So that's why we are so attached to something. Because of that, our perceptions are marred by it. So therefore, you cannot part from something. Not because the object or thing that you want to part, you have to part. Maybe from the other point of view or whatever, they need to part. They really want to part, But when we are so fixated with our own afflictions, then the attachment doesn't allow us to part. Parting is very hurtful. Parting is very hurtful, not because actually, if there are two people who want to part from one another, one wants to part, another doesn't want to part. That's interesting, isn't it? One wants to part is happy to part. Can't wait to part, The other one who's difficult to part is because he's marred by his attachment. His over-dependence on it, So why it's difficult to part? One who is destructively seized by afflictions, for them it's difficult to part, For the other, not parting another day is a hell. They will be relieved if you can part. But for one who doesn't want to part, is making the other miserable. So, people do not know how to make their mind to be free of sufferings. They want to prolong the suffering by not being able to part. Now, the parting here shouldn't be thought as just between two people. Should be addiction. And addiction is very hard to give up. Some people are so addicted to certain substances, and that is their big problem. And why? The affliction, there's such a desire, over-dependency to it is so strong, and they do not know how to part it. But what is hardest to part is one really need to part from. One need to part from. People don't want to get well soon. They really want to make the pain last longer because they're so stupid and dumb. Why they are completely under the snow of their afflictions. Afflictions are so strong, remember, like snow. Like 5-meter depth snow on their house. It's so difficult. It's difficult, Maybe the roof's about to collapse. Korwa Tingring. Korwa Tingring means secular existence is a dry deep. Yeah, the person's samsara means the vicious cycle is so deep, so deeply seated anger or so deeply seated delusion. They don't know they don't like samsara, but they're digging it deeper. Everything they do, they make it even deeper than they want to stay. So they have lost their mind when they are in samsara. Samsara is a vicious cycle of negative thoughts, repeatedly perpetuating. Yeah. And a vicious cycle. Korwa, it's a Sanskrit Tibetan word. Korwa means to cycle, go in circle, vicious cycle, perpetuating itself. It doesn't want to come out, but everything it does spins it many, many times. You can see that in people who maybe is under your care or under your guidance or whatever. You can see what they need to do, but they just do the exact opposite. And they haven't got any awareness they're doing that. Chuchawan de banam yang ying nam kyang yingma lam tu luna cho go bar kuna cha yu de chimin. Yeah. If those aspiring to practice Dharma become distracted and stray off the path, all know that they need Dharma, but they are unable to practice it. They're aspiring to practice Dharma, they're reading Dharma, they're listening Dharma, they're studying Dharma, and so on. But they're still so distracted. And the very things that they shouldn't be doing, they get strayed off the path by the very things. And so, in order to not stray off the path, they need to know the Dharma. They may even know some concepts and ideas of the Dharma, but they are not able to practice it. So meaning they may be theoretically able to believe in them and think they need them, but when it comes to doing, they're not practicing it. They are not able to practice it. So this shows why is it so difficult to practice Dharma is one needs to have a good discipline, have faith, good influence. If you don't have someone to influence you, if you don't have a Sangha to connect it with, whose inspiration motivates you, of course that's what we need. We need Sangha. We need the living Sangha. People are not able to work with anybody. How could they work with themselves? They need to pay heed to someone, work with others, and then they will start learning to pick small qualities from others. If they don't know how to copy the other people's qualities, they're completely outweighed by their own bad habits they already have, that they have already prior to the Dharma. So they need to basically learn how to offset the bad habits by practicing Dharma. And if one is spending too much time with kind of people whose influence is very, very negative, where you spend time, what you do with your life, what you do with time and situations. If you're spending more time doing with those people whose influence are that strong, and then you want to try to offset that by practicing Dharma, you got to do sufficient amount of practice so that you are actually able to outweigh that. So they're unable to do it. They're unable to practice Dharma because of the lack of merit. Because of lack of merit, lack of faith, lack of diligence we were talking about, and because of they become completely caught in the samsara. Even those who have entered the door of Dharma. So this is talking about people who have formally taken refuge and embraced the bodhicitta and taken up to certain practices, certain commitment. When the teaching says one should not do and one is doing them. Even those who have entered the door of the Dharma, meaning those who have entered the door of Dharma should no longer be in the chill of samsara. It doesn't mean that you don't see samsara, you don't be affected, but you do not become cringed, you don't become swayed by the samsara. You have ability to turn to Dharma. Because you have entered the door of Dharma, and you have to look deeper into the Dharma for the solution. But when people have entered the Dharma, even those who have entered the door of Dharma are unable to practice it. So Rongton is talking about the frailty of people's fitness to practice Dharma, even though they have entered the door of Dharma. So here Rongton is referring to those who have not just taken refuge, those who have taken maybe vows of a monk or a nun or of a bodhisattva vow or whatever their practices are. As they become so engrossed in the affairs of this life. So Rongton sees the obstacles for them not being able to practice the Dharma is they become so engrossed. So their time, their energy, their resources are all spent into the affairs of this life, as if that is the most important one. They become so attached to this life's things, whether it's too many of those things, not just bare necessities of food, clothes, shelter, and medicine. These prerequisites are allowed to have. These are not indulgence. These are not that you are engrossed in. That when they say they become so engrossed in the affairs of this life, means people in their life, those who call it my people, and they become attached to them, aversive to those who are different, who are having difficulty with them. So we become so caught in the samsara of everyone else that are connected with us, and we become so engrossed in their attachment, engrossed in their aversion, engrossed in their conflict, and we take part in them, not to add to any value or benefit to them, only to make it matters many times worse. So that's they become so engrossed in the affairs of this life. So that's why we say in the prayer, may all beings live in equanimity, free from attachment, even to the near ones, and aversion even to the distant ones. So we should not let ourselves become engrossed in the affairs of lives of others. If you can positively help for the benefit of both sides and others, by all means, like Buddha himself, engage in various acts of mediation. There's one of the 8 stupas that is built in memory of Buddha is the stupa in Rajgir, and that's called stupa of reconciliation. So he made to mediate the conflicts between ancient Bengal and Magadha kingdom have a lot of wars. He went there and to mediate them, to resolve all of their conflicts, to drop all the differences and bring peace. And he made them all to build a stupa to make peace. So if you can do that, yeah, that's good. So that you are. But otherwise, you shouldn't take side. If you can do something like that. Otherwise, you shouldn't become so engrossed, even for your brother or the mother or someone. However much your mother's wrong, you still think you're standing beside her or something. Stupidly to make it worse many times. People do that, don't they? They all think they're all together. They don't have the daring ability to be different. And not to sort of disown them, so to speak, but just to. So, because one becomes so engrossed in the samsara's attachment to one side, aversion to another, well, the question isn't who is right or who's wrong. It's just one is so biased against others, biased towards those few people where he thinks ours. So one becomes so engrossed, even the practitioner of Dharma, even those who enter the door of Dharma get engrossed in the bias of sectarianism or us versus them, that kind of thing. So Rongton is talking about how destructive attachment is. Although no one sincerely wishes to practicing discarding the Dharma, one way or another, lifespan becomes squandered. So he's looking at the destructiveness of affliction when it gets into your blood, Even though the person has no intention to discard practice of Dharma, they still want to practice Dharma. But one way or another, they spend more time squandering their effort and energy in depleting the very effort they try to practice by doing practice Dharma. So that shows how destructive the afflictions are, so that we have to therefore learn how to overcome the afflictions by learning to have the practice of Dharma. So that Dharma is the only repellent of afflictions. It's not a tube you can buy. Affliction doesn't have a tube or a pill. Everything else these days, there's a pill or a tube or an ointment or some devices or deities even. Deities even. But the only repellent, So that's why Dharma is the panacea, medicine. So now Rongton goes to say, if one cherishes to be liberated from the vicious cycle of samsara, birth and death, purify one's mental continuum. Learn to witness your mind, purify your mind is the practice of the Dharma. Buddha said, purify your mind is the practice of Dharma. So purify one's mental continuum by performing the preliminary practices, such as generation of the enlightenment thought and doing supplication to the Buddhas in the before, just as we were doing, just what they were like. We were just doing this refuge 3 times and 4 immeasurable 3, just like a formality to do the teachings and the session. But you can make the refuge and 4 immeasurables and generation bodhicitta as a main practice. You could be doing that thousands in a session. You could be doing hundreds in a session. You can divide your day into a couple of 4 or 5 sessions throughout the day. Do that undistractedly in the presence of enlightened beings. You visualize them. You call their holy names, and witness them. Witness their presence. Believe that they are presence. They are omniscient, and enlightened beings are not some localized at one spot. Like the rays of the sun is not just in Japan. The rays of the sun goes through the whole world. It might rise in Japan, but Japanese don't see the sun rising from theirs. In Japan, the sun also rises further than their place. It's further east than Japan. Can you believe? Most people think the sun rises from Japan, but in Japan, the sun doesn't rise from Japan. It rises from further east. Further east. So, the rays, Buddha Dharma, fully enlightened Buddha is like rays of sun. That's why Buddhism uses sun, solar ray, solar seat, lunar seat. All the Buddhas may visualize seated on the moon and the sun disk because they are universal. So we shouldn't feel you have to go to Lhasa or you have to go to Bodh Gaya or you don't even have to go to Holder, It's like now, you can stay in your home and you can hear the Dharma, This is the Zoom. Zoom is teaching you the Dharma is Buddha. Buddha is the Dharma. Zoom proves that is so. Zoom shows you the Buddha is the Zoom. Zoom, I don't think it's some kind of ordinary technology, Zoom actually teaches you the Buddha is not far. Buddha is not far. You visualize, you feel the presence, you hear the Dharma, you believe in the teachings, and you practice. You just switch on His Holiness Dalai Lama's YouTube teachings, and what a wonderful thing it is to have discipline, not to squander your day and hours doing other not so useful things, but just switch on a teaching of His Holiness Dalai Lama. And there are many series of teachings he's given. Just make a discipline. First 1, 2. The YouTube is a Buddha activity. Buddha activity. Zoom is a Buddha activity. Why you have to imagine when you don't have to imagine? You just switch on the YouTube. In the old days in Tibet, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have Zoom, but we visualize. And many people saw Padmasambhava in their meditation, Tara. You wouldn't believe all our biographies of our masters are completely covered in these life experiences of directly enjoying the sighting of the Buddhas in their meditations. Not because Buddha has a special connection to you, but because they had pure perception. They have pure devotion to visualize in their little huts, in their little sort of, meditation hut in far north Tibet. This is a very difficult place to get to. But Buddha doesn't need any transportation. So you need to visualize. That's what it says. You should visualize. By performing the preliminary practice, such as generation of enlightenment thought in the space, and do supplication to the host of the enlightened one before you. So Tibetan Buddhism is very rich to how to do this practice. Secure the foundation of practice with the essence of compassionate mind, realizing emptiness. So, that's right. You should lay the good foundation of practice. That you yourself, I got this thing to do. I have this thing to do. And you just stick with that, Some people are so committed. Like my children, so committed to play soccer and to run after balls. and whatever. They're different names, softballs, soccer, Aussie rules. Okay, running after all kinds of balls. They're so committed. I don't know where they get. They have secured a good foundation in sport. Dharma is higher sport, really. Dharma is the highest sport and highest arts. So secure the good foundation of saying, you can say, oh, George practiced every morning, 3 hours. Each day, and no matter how difficult his days are, how his duties are, he never misses practice, and that has kept him sane. That has kept him going off to the pubs and casinos, casinos. The only reason he found that casinos are not fit to run, they should have found it right from the beginning. That's what all the casinos are. I was shaking my head. Gosh, I should have told them right from the very beginning, They should have never given license to run those things. That's the way all the mayhem takes place. All the dodgy activities happens there, and yet the highest people are giving this kind of authority to each other. In civilized world, they do these things. And they just discovered, they found out, after all these years, they found out. So this is ignorance. They have completely put the secure foundation of misery. Yeah? And they think they're important. They all wear wonderfully attired clothes, wear all bow tie, all these things, just to kill each other. Just to harm each other, just to destroy each other's life in front of those machines. From gambling, all these things destroy families, destroy country, everything, Secure foundation, the essence of compassion mind training practice. Master the powerful talent of the knowledge of the union of meditative and post-meditative state. Yeah, don't just meditate in the meditative time, but try to employ the meditative state into post-meditative attainment. They call post-attainment, post-meditative attainment. What is the meditation giving you? You set the 3 hours each morning or whatever. But what is post-3-hour sit that you can see that you're much more kinder, a bit more self-controlled, a bit more compassionate in your perception, and so on and so forth. You see the good in everyone. You see the would-be Buddha in everyone. When you're able to see that, it's not just the guru you should see as a deity. All sentient beings you should see as a deity. People haven't got the teachings. I don't know, maybe the teachers are not giving the full teachings. The fact that the deity should be seen, the guru is deity, is not so much the guru is the deity, but so that you can see everyone as a deity. That is the teaching. It's not that so that you worship to the guru as a Buddha and a deity, and then everybody else is still left ordinary. That's the problem. The teaching is not just to see one or two or some gurus as a Buddha, but you can see everybody as ordinary. No, the whole purpose is not to see the guru as a Buddha. The whole purpose is to see all sentient beings as a Buddha through seeing the guru as the Buddha. That's the purpose of it. Don't forget the purpose of the teachings. That's the post-meditative state. You should combine the union of meditative and post-meditative. Then you will have the mastery of the talent of the knowledge. Talent of the knowledge of the union of meditative and post-meditative. Post-meditative attainment. Post-meditative attainment, Je top, the Tibetan word is amazing. Je means after, top means attainment. Post-attainment. Post-attainment means the actual bountiful harvest of all the digging you did on the cushion. All the digging and sowing on the cushion, you actually reap the harvest when you're off the cushion. When you're outside meditation, you have much more sanity and compassion and pure perception and all the rest. Then you have the mastery of the talent of using the meditation and post-meditation. In Vajrayana, they divide whole practices in, say, 11 yogas. There are 11 yogas, and maybe good 7 of them they have to do on the cushion. The rest is off the cushion. And something like eating or drinking or washing or these things also included. But the other one not included even is post-attainment. Post-meditation, whatever you encounter with people or things, during that, how should you bring all the session of practice you did on the cushion, how should you bring that and harvest it on the post-meditation experiences? It's almost like some kind of everlasting battery. Everlasting battery is switch on, not just on the cushion, but even push on. The battery is switch on even more when you're off the cushion, when you're outside the meditation. There you should witness the sentient being's frailty under the destructive emotions, destructive afflictions. Separate them from the afflictions. Don't lump the person's aggression with him. He still is your brother or the father or the whatever. Don't lump that. Don't throw the baby with the bathwater. You should still think he is still this. Never mind, he's slightly wrong, slightly drunken, or slightly angry, or slightly aggressive, but he's still this. Think like that. See? Then you are not under the spell of their affliction, nor your affliction. You're actually able to separate the person from the affliction. Because person is not the affliction. Affliction is just a bad conditioning. You know? Like drinking and driving. Driving is actually useful. But only when you drive and drink, then it's not. It's like that. Affliction and the person itself is good. But only when the affliction overcomes the person, then they are not themselves. So you are able to post-meditationally survey the plight of sentient beings. Yeah? This very... Between session meaning between formal sessions and then before next session, between sessions purify the physical and verbal obscuration with the mindful dharmic conduct. Yeah. So then even between the sessions, whatever you physically verbally do, because you usually have a certain physical habits and karmic verbal habits, and always try to bring on any dharmic conduct. In any dharmic conduct. Maybe you can recite some mantras. Even in between sessions, you can still murmur some mantras. Even do something useful with the physical behaviors. Don't be rough and don't throw things, don't litter things, or don't be like that. Whatever it is, physically, verbally, you can do that. Try to do it according to that will purificatory for the mind. Conclude them with prayer and dedication of merit. So when you do practice, and when you do something in between sessions, whatever you did, do not overlook them, saying that's small, that's too minor. Always dedicate. Even the smallest effort you try to do even that you should dedicate. Dedicate means that you should pray it for some good result to be accrued as a result of that. They say that when you meet somebody, you don't say that I meet somebody. You just say, this is future Buddha I'm meeting. You should think like that. Even you're parting from somebody, you should parting not only people, but also your attachment to them. Very good. So don't think they left you, or they abandoned you. Oh, thank goodness. This parting will help me to get rid of my over-dependency. Very good. This will teach me some strength to be able to do things by myself. And don't feel lonely. Very good. Empower yourself to be alone and not always looking for someone to lean on to. If you don't have someone to lean on to. So if say sometimes you're pretty alone, it's very good. Don't feel jealous of other people. It looks like they are all together. There are lots of them together, laughing and enjoying, and you feel, oh, how about me? I haven't got anyone to have a dinner with, type of thing. You should rejoice. I dedicate my aloneness and freedom, and cheer it. Toast a drink to yourself. Very good. And say the grace to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Very good. Have a soup. Say the grace to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. What a good company that it is. And say some prayers to the hungry ghost. Very good. See, what kind of company you're lacking? Why did the yogis survive better in the mountains, in their huts? They were doing this all the time, They were always offering small drinks to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and then to themselves, very little ones, and then always thinking of those who don't even have that. See? Never think of poor me, See, one who is rich with Dharma, one who has refuge in the Dharma, you should never feel alone. You will always find Dharma friends. You will always meet sentient being friends. They will teach you, they will show you some things that you wouldn't believe that you could learn so much from that experience. Now this section is I love this section. Of course, all sections are beautiful. He says, postulate the view when it matters. Postulate the view when it matters means where it is very, very necessary. Bring on the view, the right view, the 4 seals of Dharma that you know. Remember them. Think everything's impermanent. When you are struggling to accept something, remember the view of impermanence. Postulate the view when it matters, So don't just think of impermanence just before the session, Don't just think impermanence that when you lose something, alas, it's impermanent, I'm losing, Even you have a brink of winning something. Think of the impermanence. You saw, who knows? I may never win anything. It's very good. Tawa tuksa tukshe, And the view of emptiness. Practice emptiness, practice selflessness. And that's the postulating view where it matters. Because it says you have to practice self. Teaching doesn't say things are empty, but you have to use the emptiness in meditation. You should know that there is no real self, it's called me, that is going to be enduring here to watch the outcome or these things. So you should just see the purposelessness of developing attachment to this. It's pointless to develop attachment to this. And so when you bring the emptiness, you can sever attachment. When you bring the emptiness meditation, you can sever aversion to people, to things. Because you're postulating the view where it matters. How do you know that you have postulated view when it matters? It just brings peace, freedom from suffering, freedom from fixations. Gomba Tangsar Chöchik means cut through with meditation when it is arduous. Arduous, Meaning so when your meditation is not going very well, don't push too hard. Don't push too hard. Just stop there. Who says your meditation should be miserable? If the meditation is not good, just stop it. Cut through the meditation when it is arduous, Some people could be, let's say, diligence is good or something. That kind of pathetic diligence, self kind of, persistence, but actually you could push so hard that you don't want to do any more at all. Quite a lot of people like that. They push so much all of a sudden like a sprint run, and then now energy left at all. Because they do not know how to moderate even their meditation. So do things slowly, whatever you can. Don't push too hard. If you think you are pushing too hard, have a pause, have a rest. This is pause the precept when it is rigid. When you try to practice certain precepts, Of course, you are trying to slowly learn to adhere and adopt the precepts. But if the precept is making you so rigid and so judgmental to yourself and so impatient with others and so right or wrong with everything, you have to learn to relax a bit. It's like belt, you know. You don't want to drop your pants, but that's the purpose of the belt. But if it's too tight, you can loosen a bit. So pause the precept. Pause meaning even precepts has got limitations, you know. To you that it is right precept, but to some people, no, they would never come to it again if they have to do that. So you have to tailor it according to your ability and capacity, and capacity in a gradual level, you know. And sometimes they say that this idea of Chopa Toksa Shikshi means when you are conducting a particular religious way that people think you are pure, or if you're very by the book, you're so good, you think very good, you get really, really uptight, you become so disrespectful to others, you become really, really, judgmental to others, you think you're so pure, that's the sign, that's the time, then you have to really relax a bit, because otherwise your piousness become cause of your license to judge others, competitive others, and overlooking others, and become arrogant with yourself. So you can see that's you're being too rigid, because it is not softening you, not making you become kind and compassionate to others. You become too righteous and aggressive. So it doesn't mean you should break precepts here, you know. It means you should moderate the precepts so that you do not use your precept to the extent of judging others because you don't eat meat. You become always talking that people who meat eaters are so bad, or you become like that, you know. Even though you sort of think like that, but you don't say that because that will upset the people. You almost kill them. Even you don't eat meat, but you kill somebody. So what's the point of not what's the point of not eating meat when you're killing people? You might as well eat those you kill. So means, some people observe certain precepts so much so that their rigidity becomes a cause of fright and difficulty to others, not setting a good example of humility and gentleness towards others, you know. So that's what it means. Chopa toksa shik, you know. This is, I mean, when you literally look at it, it says when the it says break the precept when it's rigid. I said pause the precepts. Literally says break the precept when it's rigid. So break the precept can be quite literally taken wrong, but pause the precept. Maybe you need to moderate it a little bit, you know. Moderate it a bit, and when it's too rigid, you know. Some people like fasting or something. They say, they think he's fasting 8 days in a row. Now he's going to the fifth set of his fasting, and he thinks it's great. Don't realize his health is really, really being sort of ignored. And so I've seen people who did that. You know, who did the fasting retreat for 8 sets of 6 and 8. 2 sets of 8 days. 16 days, and he died because he was too rigid. He pushed too hard on it. He didn't know how to pause it. Sometimes you can do half the precepts, meaning not just both days, but first day, half day, second day also half day. So that's good for your body, you know. And you don't just try to compete with others, you know. So that means pause according to your fitness, your ability, particularly your attitude. Your attitude is to compete with others. Your attitude to think that you are as good as them. Then you might as well pause that kind of precepts of competitiveness. So it really refers to that. Kindle the experience when it is needed. Most people are difficult. They're not willing to experience the hardships. If they don't practice hardships, they don't experience meditation. Meditation requires penance, really, real penance. Buddha himself, was daring to give up all of that things that everybody go and seek to gain. He gave up all of that so that he have the better benefit of experience of exposing himself to nature and solitude and aloneness and simplicity and all of that. If he didn't spend that much time in simplicity and aloneness and forest, he would never have experienced enlightenment. Enlightenment is not earned at dinner table. not a lot of parties. Enlightenment is an experience alone in the caves, in very desolate places, in the early cold morning or very dry night or whatever it is, that you actually expose your body, exchange that with experiences. So experience of Dharma realization doesn't come with the comfort and indulgence. So therefore you need to push yourself until, it says employ, kindle the experience. Kindle means you have to light the lighter. You have to light the lighter to dispel the darkness. Seeing the light is the experience. Dispelling the darkness is the effort. So, what is the darkness? Laziness, procrastination. Not me. I'm sick. I'm old. I have no time. I'm busy. This is too much for me. This is the darkness. These are the darkness. So we need to kindle. We need to kindle. We have to have the experience of kindling the match in the darkness. Then you will see the light in that. So that's right. Kindle the experience when it is needed. Say you feel very, very harmed or challenged by somebody through the aggression. Try to kindle the experience of practicing compassion to them and patience over the situation. So you have to kindle. you have to light the lighter when it's needed. When you are running short of compassion, patience, that time you try to do something to kindle the experience of how to practice true forgiveness and compassion. It is only done in a very awkward situations. Yeah? Employ the instructions onto your mental continuum. Yeah. These instructions should be subjectively employing and heeding to by your own mind. You can remember the words, you can take notes, so on, but mainly try to imprint it on your mind and employ that. Employ the instructions onto the mental continuum. Dangna gyuto to culture. Your mental continuum means that your mental continuum is changed. Mental continuum, your attitude is changed by the instruction. As soon as you heard it, you thought about it, it really changed your way of thinking. Your mental continuums change. It's like you have changed your attitude towards somebody, or your mom or dad, or life's difficulty experience. You no longer see them anymore in those days. Why? The instruction just had a direct hit on you. so your mind has completely become influenced by teaching, and you no longer have that kind of slanted view or prejudicial view, disrespectful view, or negative view, or whatever view. Some people are so addicted to their opinions, their perception of somebody, they're not willing to change it. But listen to the Dharma. If you really heard the instruction, not just remember to quote to each other up to this level, There's a Tibetan say up to this level in lip service, No, just do it until something is shifting here, that you no longer see somebody as you previously used to, because the instruction had a direct change. It changed me, people say. Yeah, it changed me. What? Dharma changed you. Why? Not just about that person, but subsequently about everything. You now do not view in that way. Remember the precipice of subject-object is very, very narrow. So now you don't want to travel that narrow passage. You want to be cautious. Why? Your mind has been now changed by the instructions. Yeah, Dharma changed me. People adopt changes in Dharma. Otherwise, it's not a temporary enjoyment, It's not an entertainment. This doesn't look like a stage to me. This is not entertainment stage, You can't perform. Allah not allowed in front of the Buddha, This is not a stage to perform spectacles so that the spectators are sort of delighted for the evening. No. I wouldn't get a job as actor, I tell you that. I haven't tried, by the way. I don't think I'll waste any effort in doing that. But you see, the instructions of Dharma should change you, should change your attitude. So much so that people say, when they take refuge, they say, I do. Why? That formality of taking refuge is actually, they say, I will adopt this change. Because Dharma, you heeded to it, and you heard it, and it really made you so much sense in your life, and you want to adopt the change. Yeah. So change attitude. Some people do sign of changing attitude, shaving hair, changing name through the formality of refuge and certain ceremonies. Yeah, that's what they do. There's got a lot of people that become Buddhist because their friends is Buddhist and mother's Buddhist. They're not talking about it. Don't mean them acting like mom, acting like brother. That's just bias. You're just trying to give some moral support to each other. Not that kind of superficial changes. Until it really changed you to the extent you don't tell the storyline as the same way as before, because you do no longer subscribe to those views totally convoluted by your selfishness. Now you do not retell those story anymore. That's the Dhamma Gyutola Kelji. Let the instruction hit on your mental continuum. Yeah. Employ the instruction onto the mental continuum. So it means that it just made your mental continuum to be completely changed. You can see yourself changing. We're talking about you're already changing. There's no doubt about that. The listening, meditating, and reading, and thinking about the teaching is slowly. But if you pay an amazing, particular good heed to the teaching, it will have a very immediate changeability. Immediate change. People have sudden realization. People saw the Buddha, they changed them. Buddha didn't need to teach day after day teaching. His holy presence, enlightened presence was so powerful. They just need to lay their eyes on him once. Maybe heard him, just watch him smile or something. Just small darshan, small witnessing, small beholdings. And also small hearings, That's why hearing Dharma is very, very, very powerful, because it can completely change the way that you never thought you're going to do that about him or about that or about their life or about your story. The problem is we're refusing to change. We're stagnant. We're suffering stagnancy. And hearing Dharma can change your stagnancy, and drop your wrong views, and drop the poor me mentalities. And that's what the Dhamma Gyutotu Kolchiks, Make the instructions, make your mental continuum employable, re-employable. Re-employable means otherwise people's mental attitudes employed in one direction, that's it. That's completely rigid. That's it. They're never going to change their mind. Stuck, They're paralyzed by that experience. Their mind is never going to re-employable. So you can re-employ your mind flexibly with great versatility and agility and serviceability. You wouldn't believe. It can heal you. It can heal you in many ways. Dharma listening, Dharma believing the Dharma, About 10 Dharma activities: reading, writing, listening, contemplating, and thinking. All these things are Dharma activities. They can make your mental attitude re-employable. Otherwise, their attitude is stuck in one. It cannot employ differently. It just completely ceased, paralyzed. Without the Dharma, a lot of people's views and attitudes are paralyzed. Oh, him. Oh, her. Oh, that place. They're stuck in this unemployable. Their mind could not employ differently about that. They're just so stuck. They're so paralyzed, seized by this wrong view. So that's what it means. Make the instruction so much so that it can make your mind to re-employ itself to something useful. Bring the practice until success. Yeah. Bring the practice until it yields success. You know, if you have a project, do it until you finish. Don't do many false starts. Just do it until you finish. So here talking about to overcome certain karma, certain affliction, certain misperception, all of that until you completely feel a great change, great shift, great kind of success. It's like absence of ill will. And you experience absence of ill will towards somebody, means you have practiced compassion, means you have practiced perfection of compassion. Yeah, there's no sign of any ill will left. Wow, that'll do good to your blood. That will do good to your nervous system. That will do good to your bones. That'll do good to the whole community of the transient collections. All the transient collections become a little bit stronger. You will feel light. You will very light in the head, soft in the heart, gentle with the mouth. Oh, everything becomes overhauled. It's like you bought a new computer. It's like, bring the practice to succeed, you know. Don't just plan to buy a new computer. Just buy an all new computer. just to throw away the old one. Dig out the stone of grasping to materiality from its core. Yeah. So meaning, it means uproot your grasping to materialism, to things. People are so attached to things. People are so attached to things, they don't have time to change their thought. They're so busy with things, they don't know how to watch what they think. They don't know how to choose their thoughts. They're so busy going after things, they don't know how to choose their thoughts. So when you can dig out the stone, pull out the stone like a root of grasping to materially from its core, yeah. Grasping to things, yeah. Because people are grasping to things, they don't want to practice Dharma. Dharma is not material; it's spirituality. You know, you got to believe in higher causes of humanity. Kindness, forgiveness, tolerance, and forgiveness. You got to see the value of these things. When you have value of these things, then your mind is now focusing on the spirituality. Then you will give time to practice this. Otherwise, you see, you always after things. You know, you're always after things. You know. Materialistic, very materialistic, always after things. Scrutinize the thoughts as a falling rock. Wow. Your thoughts are falling rocks, remember that. So make sure that you don't stand in their way, or don't give yourself way to the another falling rock. Yeah, people have been hit by more falling rock of their thoughts than people. Amazing in imagination, yeah. Rongton's just being able to, you become so cognizant of your thoughts, how destructive they are, and particularly if they're afflicted, you know. And if you're not so careful to negotiate with them, you are in danger of being hit by another of your thoughts. You're not hurt by people. You're mostly hit by your own thoughts that you do not know how to scrutinize and screen. So this is sign of one who can become cognizant of your own thought. A meditator recognizes his thoughts by watching his breath or the mantra or posture or visualization, what they do it. And because they're given to do those meditation, then they become very cognizant of all the other thoughts that try to sway your attention from. And then you know the thoughts, yeah? So that's why I scrutinize the thoughts as a falling rock. When you're trying to do something, your thought just takes you away or kills you, hit on you. So it's amazing, isn't it? When you can witness your thoughts and how dangerous they are, how quickly they come, how quickly they snatch you. And you don't think your thoughts. You don't think they're your thoughts. You think it's them. Because you do not know that if you don't have the ability to witness your thoughts, you will blame it things. You wouldn't see them as your thoughts. So therefore, scrutinize the thoughts as a falling rock. I mean, how many times you have been hit by a falling rock? Not very often. Not maybe even once. You're lucky. But how many times you have been hit by falling thoughts? Many times. People have been hit by their own thoughts many times and make them unconscious for weeks. Some people still barely recovering from that thought hit. And they think it's somebody else hit me, somebody else did this to me. But they don't realize their enmity, their judgment thought, these things hit them many times. Uproot the spiteful attitude. See, this is very short but very succinct. Uproot the spiteful attitude. Your mind, which is spiteful. You should recognize your mind that is spiteful. When you recognize the spiteful mind, then you are actually metacognitively recognizing your own spiteful mind, and you want to part from the spiteful mind. Spiteful mind is very sort of aversive, always malice and ill will, and try to ambush others, always thinking what he did this to me. Somebody told me, like, in 1983 he pushed me. They still remember 1983 they pushed him and still keeping the spite. He doesn't remember. He fed him every day. When he was a little boy. His father pushed him in 1953, 83, and he only remembers that. He doesn't remember his father pushing all these spoons full of food in his mouth, carrying him in his shoulder, a bag, washing him. He doesn't remember that. The spiteful mind is like that. So mean. So mean. People are like that, They're so spiteful of small things. They forget the big things. Wow, so miserable. Their meanness. Usurp the king of the store of consciousness. So, meaning you need to overtake, you need to overthrow. You need to overthrow the king of your store of consciousness. So means your own mind that's doing the thing. You got to apprehend. You got to apprehend who has been harming you. Next time you go to a friend of yours, Dharma friend or teacher, or even to a counselor saying, I come to tell you today that I've been so selfish all these years. Instead of going to talk to them complaining about who did what to me, you say, I just came today to tell you I discovered all my miseries was homemade by selfishness. That's what they say. You should learn to you should learn to overthrow your own mind that is doing all the damage. Means recognize that. Recognize that. Doesn't mean you should sabotage yourself. Just recognize. One who recognizes this will obviously know how to separate that from yourself, so a good self. So destructive mind can sometimes just overwhelm you. Unseat the minister of afflicted mental consciousness. So here, by the way, I should go to when you talk about usurp the king of your store of consciousness. It's like in Mahayana Buddhism, we distinguish with the alaya consciousness, which is a store consciousness, and other six consciousness. Yeah, other six consciousness, 5 sense consciousness plus mental consciousness. So reason why you are under the sway of alaya consciousness, because alaya consciousness become deluded. Alaya consciousness is deluded, and therefore it completely overtook your rest of consciousness to become unconscious. Yeah, and therefore he says, unseat the minister of afflicted mental consciousness. So if you to be able to overthrow the king, which is your store consciousness, you have to unseat. You have to basically reject and fire all the minister-like sense consciousnesses. All the sense consciousness are sense unconsciousness, really. All the sense unconsciousness. People say, I saw it with my own eyes, they say. How reliable is your waxed eyes? Most people's eyes are profoundly waxed by their prejudices. What they see is not what the thing is they see things because of the afflicted mental consciousness. Therefore, the visual consciousness sees something. What you heard is this, and everything is very much marred, very much obscured by your afflictions. So unseat the ministers of the afflicted mental consciousness. Okay, amazing. You can see he was a great thinker. Set the forest of affliction on fire. Set the forest of affliction on fire. So the afflictions are separate from the mental consciousness, and so therefore separate the mental consciousness from the afflictions and burn the afflictions. Burn the afflictions. How do you burn the affliction? How do you set the forest of affliction on fire? This is very, very useful. I want to elaborate that. Set the forest of affliction of disrespect, ego, with prostration. We do prostration, bowing down practices. That how do you do this? This destroys your forest of arrogance, disrespect, and egoism. So prostration is not. Buddha doesn't need any of your little bows. Even 100,000 bows Buddha doesn't need. He doesn't collect bows from people and then think he's great. It is so that we can set the forest of selfishness, pride, and arrogance that has caused between you and your immediate family members, friends, problems with someone is because of your arrogance with him. Therefore, they didn't get on with you because you didn't attract the love or kindness, because of your arrogance. The reason, because of your arrogance, they speak harsh words to you, disrespectful to you, because you are just you have been so deeply afflicted. So therefore, you should burn the affliction of arrogance by doing prostration. You should burn the forest affliction of miserliness by practicing generosity, by giving things, by doing things doing with people, and with delight, and so on. So you can basically set all the forests of different affliction, such as arrogance, such as miserliness, such as anger. Set the forest of affliction of anger with loving kindness. Practice loving kindness. Not just people who are nice to you, loving to you. People who are actually very aggressive to you, very hostile to you. That's the forest. It's not they're aggressive because you have so much enmity to them, ill will to them. You need to quell the ill will towards them. And if you are able to set the forest of ill will, which is the affliction, on fire, then you will feel loving kindness to people. You will feel compassion to people. You will feel empathy to people. Otherwise, you don't know how to feel empathy if you don't feel compassion. Why? You're caught in the thicket of forest of anger, and you're suffocatingly dark in that area because it's so thick a forest. So therefore you should practice, all the remedies to burn away the forest of each of affliction, such as arrogance, covetousness, desire, meanness, generosity, meanness by generosity, and loving kindness, hatred with loving kindness, and joy with jealousy, and so on. Flood the valley of mountainous propensities. You have so many propensities, pakchak, everybody got so many long-held propensities. You have to flood the valley. How do you mean flood? Flood in Tibetan here means that you should bring the, you should bring a lot of Dharma practices. You should overwhelm yourself with practices of Dharma. It's just like a flood of devotion, flood of many hours and days, weeks of study and practice. You just flood your day with full of Dharma. Just do Dharma, and so you just feel all your propensity to do nothing, putting your feet up, all those get flooded. So your whole valley is flooded. Whole valley is flooded by the Dharma activity, so you don't have any propensities to do nothing and laze around and waste time. So so flood the valley of mountainous propensities. You have so many propensities that are like mountains. So let the flood of practice of Dharma just wash them away. It's like that. So that's what people do, a lot of intense practices, go months, weeks, and that almost your whole ordinary behaviors and propensities are completely overtaken by the practices of Dharma. And doesn't mean Dharma means just doing formal practice of Dharma, but doing what is virtuous, wholesome, good, and maybe just go and do things for people, do with people. Don't just do for a little while. Do with some consistency that people think you're really holding a big chunk of the duty that they don't have to worry about. That's your flooding the mountain of your propensity of doing not enough or not much or nothing with consistency. Flood the valley of doing something, whatever it is. Where we are not necessarily talking about within Dharma context. You can do with at your work or some kind of charity or some kind of your local school or your local hospital or somewhere that do something totally selflessly for others. Just forget that you have to think of anything doing for yourself. Just do that. It will just show you it's possible that you don't have to be addicted to thinking of what's for me in it. That kind of attitude. Because this flood the valley means, what does the flood do? Flood cleans everything dirty in the valley. It removes everything, becomes so pure. It becomes a spring clean. It takes away all the rubbish, all those kind of things away, and then the valley becomes clean. And then you haven't got any of those things left. Why? We deliberately visualize in some meditation practice that all your, even interior, into your blood and the vessels are completely cleansed by the flood of nectar from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We feel as if they completely cleansed everything, like that kind of medical procedure. They do that, from the pipe from the bottom, clean all your gut, that sort of thing. That's just cleaning the gut. This is talking about habit. This is a gut habit. Clean all the gut habit of addiction, habit of laziness, habit of procrastination. You should flood the valley with practice of diligence. Do the practice of Dharma with diligence so that you flood the laziness and it washes away all the remainder of laziness, saying, I'm tired, I'm not free, I will do it later, or I'm not up to it today. Every day is today, So today not convenient, tomorrow also, and today not convenient. So never convenient. All these excuses become flooded. Yeah? Yeah. Empty the ocean of evil deeds from its ocean flow, So try to break the very flow of your negative habits, negative habits. You try to break it. Some people do that in retreat. They give up smoking. they just empty the flow of the ocean of that habit, and then after that they went home and they said, I'm not drinking anymore, I'm not smoking anymore, and you wouldn't believe they did stop. It changed them. Yeah, because they emptied the ocean flow of their bad habits. Huh? So, if your affliction is strong, you've got to combat affliction by the remedy of Dharma to break the habits. Demolish the mountain of ignorance from its foundation. Yeah, you need to chisel away the mountain by this hammer of knowledge of the Dharma and teaching, reason, and slowly break your mountain of habits from its foundation. It is pointless unless self-grasping is rescinded. Yeah, so that is now Rongton is talking about that if you do not rescind meaning separate, yeah, self-grasping. No matter what you do, you're doing it again for self-grasping, always self-grasping. Even enlightenment is self-grasping. Enlightenment for myself, higher rebirth for myself, all that sort of. So you've got to always see the self-grasping should be rescinded. That's the main purpose. It's very easy to confuse with the practice of Dharma, with the thing, external show of things as a practice of Dharma, when deep down there is no sign of rescinding the self-grasping. Dharma is unnecessary if one is freed from self-grasping. You don't even need Dharma practice if the self-grasping is rescinded. Even Dharma practice is just a means to rescind the self-grasping. So you don't have to say, oh, I have to do the practice of Dharma again. Oh gosh. As you can't do your 3-hour practice of Dharma each day. As another 21 hours you can practice self-grasping. If you're not doing if you're rescinding the self-grasping, you don't have to do many Dharma practices. Even the practice of Dharma is so that you know the point is to reduce self-grasping. If you're seeing your reduction of self-grasping, you're argumentative with your mother or whatever. Is it decreasing? You actually are much more respectful to her. You actually are more cherishing her well-being, her thoughts, her feelings. Her needs are more important than yours. Why? You have rescinded self-grasping. Then you wouldn't believe how much she looks happier. When she looks happy, you wouldn't believe how much the rescinding of self has helped some other self. So that's the magic, isn't it? The magic is when you conquer the self-grasping, then you're much more useful to the other selves. However difficult they may be. More difficult they are, by the way, the better it is to cause rescinding of ego from this end. You don't need to rescind the ego when somebody's so nice to you. So, except the subtle ones. Except the subtle ones. When one meets with a desirous person, desirous person, meaning the person who the other one is very, very wants something always from you or from everything. Make a clear decision, Make a clear decision, Maybe you can give something because they want something. Just give them, Just make a decision to make them temporarily get what they want, Or you have to make it very clearly, You don't want to deal with that. Whatever it is, you have to make clear. If the businessman moves his base, he should not leave unfinished matters behind. So this talking about if you do something, you should make a clear-cut decision. You don't leave very many unfinished things behind. If you want to do something clear, you just clear it up and just go. When confronted by enemy affliction, do not leave the sword of antidote inside the sheath. Some people only wear the decorative sword. But the decorative sword, when they try to remove the sword, it doesn't come out. So don't carry decorative sword. So means means your practice Dharma is to combat with enemy affliction. Do not leave the sword of antidote inside the sheath. Your practice of Dharma is not to show off to people, but practice Dharma is to conquer your own afflictions. So do not leave the sword in the sheath, stuck. When associating with loved ones, do not brood resentment, Yeah, this means that lots of people have no intention to brood resentment, but they're doing this for him once, they're doing that for another, they're doing this. They're slowly developing resentment. They really love each other, they need each other, but they're resenting. They're just increasing their resentment. So that's very dangerous. So therefore, means if you're doing something with someone, do not brood resentment. Do something willingly, happily, and not as a cause of not wanting to do, but you did it because you are the only one who can do it, and deep down very unwillingly, not quite happy you have to do. So unwillingness become cause of future resentment. Total willingness and let go and do this, they say with pleasure. Sometimes they say, I'll do it. If you say, please, can you do this with pleasure? That's a good sign. But next time they don't say with pleasure. So, yes, okay. Yes, okay. So then there's a danger of brooding resentment. So make sure that you know how to prevent that. When the practitioner engages meritorious virtuous practice, he should not procrastinate with his duties. Yeah. So if you're a practitioner, particularly the perfection of wisdom, in which perfection of diligence is one of the most important, do not procrastinate with your duties. Okay, so we'll stop there, everyone. I will not procrastinate finishing on time. But we have a few minutes. If you have any question or comments, please feel free. I think you're all unmuted. You just have to put your hands up. Okay, if there is no question, we have one answer here to the dedication of all the merits of really deep attention and coming together like this each night on Tuesdays is a great diligence. So I'm very thankful everybody joining us in this way. We're going to do the dedication of merits, listening to Dharma, and the merit of listening is not just how you felt, how was the evening type of thing. That's just the least of the merit. Sometimes people might ask, oh, that was so long and so complicated. I don't need to hear this again. I can do something else type of thing, But the merit is in just how you felt and what you got or what you didn't get. But the long-term wearing of the drops of the Dharma that will slowly fill the jar or wear away those kind of rough edges in one's mental, emotional, intellectual attitudes. So therefore, let us offer our prayers, dedicate the merits for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you, everyone. Om by this mere me hovaga da deva panzanga omnes me hale bere obe from the oceana pada desene de herenda ma ana de whatever Mereda Havagra Mehobi Begastan Levas to Hoda Mahayana Jijin Kareja Manju Shinewode Azama Tabajadila following all the Hezamba Ajade de Mere Mede Hezele Bodi Jida Tebe Edenayadaza Veras Bembo Meyedengri Freely without generation. I was too diligent trying to enlarge the text, but they nearly disappeared. I was trying to enlarge the script and they nearly disappeared. Testing your patience, I think. Thank you, everyone.